Hey, what's going on? It's Quinn David Furness. This is a little Beantown Unplugged action. It's not music, as the first installment of Beantown Unplugged was. This is just a recap of my a personal day, a little audio blogging action. If you recall, the first Beantown Unplugged entry was my brother and I doing Wonderwall by Oasis about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, and Beantown Unplugged really is just anything outside of the normal weekly release schedule. It's something a little different. I'm not going to come on here and rant about anything. I'm not giving movie reviews. We're not trying to get sponsorships from Jack Links. This is just something different, a little slice of home cooking. So it's about 12:30 a.m., so very late at night, very early in the morning right now. I just got home about half an hour ago. Today, which was Friday, June 22nd, 2018, I took my first personal day that I've taken, and this is my 12th month since I started a new job out here on the East Coast. So as you can imagine, this was an exciting thing for me. I was very happy to be able to do this first personal day outside of my 1 week of holiday vacation I took, which I spent with my family out on the West Coast. So I'm just going to give a recap of what I did. Again, if you go back to the very first podcast episode, which came out on January 13th, I told you one of the primary reasons of this podcast was to diary and collect my thoughts and journal to an extent, and this is a perfect example of that sort of thing. If you're here, if you made it this far, 2 minutes in, and you're looking for a crazy comedy bit or some good laughs, not that my podcast ever has good comedy or good laughs, but this installment, this little short guy is not one of those. I'm just going to tell you about my day. We will have a new episode this weekend. I'm going to have my one of my best friends in my life, John Paul Pendowski, coming on the podcast. We're going to talk about music school, which is a fascinating subculture of post-secondary education. Really looking forward to discussing that. That's going to come out tomorrow. That'll have some more laughs. That'll have just some good stories. John Paul is a very well-educated man and very well-worded and has a lot of wisdom and insight. So I'm really looking forward to having him on. That's exciting for me, partially just because I haven't talked to him in person or over the phone in 3 months now. So, but my day, I had a personal day. It was a Friday, so a little 3-day weekend action. I had a car because I had been recruiting this week. It does not happen often that I will have access to a car, so I wanted to take advantage of it. And I said that I was going to explore the great state of Delaware, because I've been to Delaware countless number of times to visit family, and I go through there all the time when I'm going to Philadelphia to work there. But we're talking about the very top, just that top semicircle, half circle of Delaware is where I spend almost all my time, either right on the border of Pennsylvania or I've been, to Wilmington a couple of times, but honestly, I don't know a lot about Wilmington. Anyways, I said that I'm going to go all around this great state and see what happens. So I was so excited for my personal day, I couldn't even sleep, which is unusual. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning with the intention of going back to bed because it's my personal day, and I never quite could. So I got moving around 6:30. I went out, ran a 5K, a very slow 5K because that's where my body's at right now. But I'm happy because it's ever since we're already up to, it's been 8 months since I ran my last marathon, and that just absolutely destroyed my body in a couple different ways. So it's a good feeling to 3 miles, 3.1 miles versus 26.2 is not quite the same, but we're getting back. We're on the right track. So I run a 5K and yada, yada, yada. I start my day. First things first, I got a car, so I'm going to do some shopping. So I look at some deals online. I go to the Old Navy, closer. It's by Glen Burnie, Annapolis, down in that region. I go there. I pick out some new shorts. I got a T-shirt. I'm king of the discount rack. I found this long sleeve Ravens tee for like $6, which of course I'm not a Baltimore Ravens fan, but much in the same way that I own some Orioles apparel now. When you live in the city, you support the team, and I don't have anything against the Ravens. And in a neutral game, Ravens versus anyone except for the Vikings, my team, when there's nothing else on the line, sure, I'll root for the Ravens. So I got a shirt to blend in when September, October rolls back around. So that was Old Navy. I was in Annapolis next, and I had never, I don't know if I'd ever been to Annapolis, so I went in and walked around the Capitol building a little bit, and I said, I've never been to the Naval Academy, so I wanted to go check that out, and spent a little time down there exploring, and St. John's College, all that stuff, and then had some lunch, and from there decided it was time to get out to Milton, Delaware. So I took the Bay Bridge across the Chesapeake Bay, which I had been on once before, took that across, and you cut over eastern shore of Maryland, and you keep going straight into Delaware. It's a pretty straight line vertical border. You cross it. Milton is another hour. Milton is about 10, 15 miles inland from the Atlantic Ocean. That is where the Dogfish Head craft brewery is located. And they're one of the more popular ones out here, and I said, I'm so close, I got to hit this up. So I went, I did a little tour, which underwhelming isn't the word I'm going to use, because they offer different types of tours, and I just chose the basic package because it's free and because I didn't want to spend a ton of time there. But I did a little tour, and at the end they give you're in the tasting room, which is a pretty hoppin' place, no pun intended. Okay, there's one laugh. And they let you, their tasting menu is huge, and I picked some pretty high-powered, potent beers. So that was fun. I didn't need to order an actual beer because the 12 or 15 ounces or whatever, 16 ounces they give you is plenty. So I had that, and at that point I really had no reason, because it's already 4:00 at this point when I'm done tasting. I don't have any reason to drive any further into the tourist trap that is the beaches of Delaware. But I said, I'm so close, I came this far, that I'm going to do it. So I'd take it's a 12-mile drive from Milton to Rehoboth Beach, and that takes me 45 minutes because the traffic just is that bad. It's a lot of people going to Rehoboth, but it's way more people going, cutting straight across and going straight south to Ocean City, down in Maryland. So I take a way too long drive to Rehoboth Beach, which I'd been to once before, but not for probably, 10, 12 years. So I get out. Well, first I park, and I'm really living my life on the edge, because I park it's 4:15, I get there. I park in a spot that says you have to have a permit from 10 to 5. And I'm thinking, you know what, I really don't want to pay for parking. I'm just going to go for it, which I did. I lived my life on the edge. I really put my heart out there and said, this is my blood world. Do with me what you want. So I did that. And then I was, of course, I don't like to use the term creepy, because I don't think I'm creepy, but just weird, single, young white male ambling down the boardwalk by myself, it's all like families and young couples and stuff. But story of my life, anything I do, anywhere I go, I'm by myself because I don't really have friends here, which is tough. And there's definitely another raw podcast on that coming up as I do some 1 year reflections here. But I'm walking on the boardwalk, so I just walked down and back. It's like half a mile each way probably, and I don't know. It was not cold, but probably low 60s and very windy, completely overcast. It rained all day. That's the other thing today. And never was it like a extreme downpour, but it never really stopped raining. It was always something. There's always some precipitation, so that was kind of, I mean, you could call it a gloomy day based just on how it looked. I don't mind it, but it was overcast and rainy the whole time. So I did Rehoboth Beach, and then I was kind of in a weird spot because I get back to my car, and it's like 5:15, 5:30, and I'm not quite ready for dinner yet, but I don't, I'm not like ready for the day to end. So if I drive back at that point, I'm going to get home at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, which for a normal person is a normal time to get home. But I'm like, this is Friday. This is my personal day. I'm returning the car literally in 12 hours here. I'm going to make the most of it. So I drive up to Dover, which is about 45 minutes north of Rehoboth Beach, and Jurassic World 2, the fifth movie in the Jurassic Park franchise, it came out last night at midnight. And not that I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. Jurassic Park Lost World, aka Jurassic Park 2, is solid. It's still a pretty good film. Jurassic Park 3 falls off the rails. It's not a very good film at all. So I had high expectations when Jurassic World came out, whenever that was, 3 years ago. And that was okay. It could have been a lot worse, but it didn't really do anything for me. So this one came out, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I had like naive, childlike wonder expectations for this film. I really thought that it was I really thought it could be a great film. I mean, I like Chris Pratt as much as the next guy, or the next lady, I guess. And Bryce Dallas Howard isn't too hard on the eyes either. But this film was just, and when you're listening to the Beantown Unplugged entries, listener discretion is advised for language, and because these entries are objectively terrible, that film was a complete pile of shit. I don't know. I might get to a longer full-scale review at some point, but that's the type of movie that I'm going to forget about in like 2 days that I even saw it. It was just, oh my God. It was just Chris Pratt with no character development. Bryce Dallas Howard wearing a see-through tank top with no bra. A villain that is just like the least compelling villain of all time. A storyline that's almost completely rehashed from Lost World. And other than like great effects and an okay score and decent directing, it sucked. But I promised I wasn't going to make this podcast into a rant. That was part of my personal day, so I had to talk about it for a second. So I got out and went and got a pizza, which has not been normal for me the last 2 weeks. I've been on a pretty, not strict or hardcore diet, but just being a lot better about that sort of stuff. But I got that, and I drove home, which from Dover is about 90 minutes. So I did that, and after hunting for some parking in my apartment, because it's like midnight when I got home, a little bit earlier than that, I finally made it home and did a little bit of prep work for the podcast tomorrow, which you guys will all hear about when it comes out. And just wanted to get this stuff in an audio file, because I don't get to take days like this very often, and ups and downs, a lot of time driving, but I had fun, and I just wanted to share that experience with everyone. So thanks for listening. 15 minutes. That's already literally about 10 minutes longer than I wanted it to go. So this is already almost a full podcast. We're going to cut it off there. So hope everyone's enjoying their weekend podcast this week with John Paul Pandowski. We're going to talk about music school, so look forward to catching up with everybody then. And I'm going to bed. It's 1 a.m., so have a good night.